Hi everyone and welcome back to the Fighter Pilot's Guide to Living. This is our fourth and final segment with Jim Puck Howe. We're talking about when Puck got command of VF-31, what that experience was like as the Tomcat was transitioning out of service, and then kind of some major things about being a fighter pilot, the O Club culture, for instance, and what it meant to have a place where stories could be exchanged from aviators across the community. Hope you enjoy.
So when you screen and then get picked up for VF-31,
Yeah.
is the decision already made that Tomcat's going away and you're going to be part of the last bit?
No,
Or like
so I
how does
actually
that all
didn't
set
screen
up?
for 31. I screened for 213. So
Okay.
I am the only thing I requested when I screened was I stayed in Tomcats. And it was selfish for two reasons. One, I wanted to fly first and foremost, by a long reason, I wanted to stay in Tomcats. And secondly, I didn't want to lose I left my family in Oceana when I went up to Newport. I geobached up there, and I lived with Grumpy Kimberly. He was up there at the same time, so we were roommates. But I wanted to obviously come back to Oceana. So yeah, they're like, congratulations, you've screened, you're going F-14s. I'm like, and I was just the happiest kid in the world. No, you're going to 213. I'm like, that's great, D squadron, good squadron. I was going to be the XO for one of my RAG instructors, Dan Cage, Slave Boy, who's a great guy. And I'm like, this couldn't work out better. The only downside was that 213 had not deployed in a while. They had been just through the rotation, everything else, going from West Coast to East Coast, and all the other switching from A's to D's. And actually, trying to think if they dumbed down because they were deep. No, we actually took guys from D's to A's. We did everything when I was in the RAG, but they ended up for like 4 years not deploying, and this was at the end of that. So I knew that 31 was going to be our sister squadron, and 31 was on deployment when I screened. I mean, these guys were at sea forever, and meanwhile, my squadron, what was going to be my squadron, had not deployed in ages. So I was like, guys, it's not good to not be at the boat for a naval aviator. You need to. The only way you can learn a carrier is by being on a carrier. You can't get good at that unless you're actually at the boat. You can talk about it, brief it, and all the other shit, but you don't know. You can't till you hawk the deck, till you break the deck, till you do all this shit that you got to do as a Tomcat guy. You don't really understand it. And I had basically, we had 04s. There were 04s and 213 that hadn't deployed. So I was like, okay, that's going to be a challenge. And they'd also been a squadron that had gone through a lot of, as the Tomcat was going away and the E squadrons were taking over initially, there were a lot of Rio front offices. So there were it wasn't odd to see 3 to 4 Rios in a row in the front office, where the written rule, I won't say written, but the unwritten rule had always been driver, Rio, driver, Rio, driver, Rio. So you always had, one of the other in the front office is kind of the anchor for everybody else. Because when you're relying on an 04 to be your leading pilot, you better have a really strong 04. And 213 at that point didn't have they were good guys, but they just weren't 05s. And they didn't have that kind of, swag. So I was looking at a lot of challenges. But so the plan was 213 was going to be, because we were going E's. So 213 was supposed to go E's. 31 was finishing up on the West Coast. They were going to leave Lemoore, come over, or they were going to finish their deployment on the West Coast. They were Oceana based, but then they were going to go F. So they were going to take their squadron after coming off deployment, give them all up, and they were all moving out to Lemoore to become an F squadron. So the guy that ended up being my skipper, Rick LeBranch, Twig, goes, I have a better idea. Why don't you make us the E squadron and leave us in Oceana, so the squadron that has just deployed twice in the last 3 years and is about to deploy again doesn't have to move to Lemoore also. and instead turn one of the Lemoore squadrons into an F squadron. Because what they're going to do is they're going to take VFA-22, the Redcocks. You can't say that without a straight face. They were bring VFA-22 from Lemoore and bring them out as an E squadron out to Oceana. So he's like, we'll leave them out there in Lemoore, make them the F squadron, make us an E squadron, and then turn 213 into F squadron. And that's exactly what they ended up doing. So that now they're realizing that, well, okay, the Rio was going to be my roommate from VF2. Tom O'Dowd was going to VF-31 as the XO. They're like, well, that's not going to work because there's not a whole lot of place for a Rio and an F-18E. So I go from having this great summer of fucking off at Oceana for like literally 6 months in the RAG and doing nothing and then getting the whole, XO course to, you're going to be an XO next week. I literally get my order changed. Like, your change of command is literally in 9 days. I call my mom. I go, hey, Mom, I'm going to be XO next week. I don't know if you want to come up. Little change of command, whatever. She's like, sure. My dad's like, he's working. He can't even come. So, and I'm like, all my plans, like, I'm fucking off are gone because now I'm going to be working up, which I'm like, great. I get to make workups again. I'm like so excited for that. But it ended up being actually a blessing because I do think a squadron really learns a lot as a unit when you're going through workups. Taco, you know what it's like. Yeah. And I think that really, sets the mood for how you're going to do in deployment. So within 9 days, I went from being the last F-14 student to, you need to get out of here. You need to CQ. Like, luckily I was still pretty fresh. Didn't take much. And you're going to meet them in Fallon in 4 days. I'm like, all right, there we go. So I'll show up and I'm now a VF-31. And like I said, for all the reasons that, 213 was a good squadron. They were our sister squadron. I'm still close with a lot of those guys, but the 31 dudes, I didn't have I had 14 nuggets or 14 JOs. I had 3 nuggets. Everybody had made a deployment. Everybody had 150 traps. I didn't worry about a single soul. I flew with Fitz Gentry for a little bit, and Dan Sullo and Sully, because I knew Sully from a previous world. But I ended up just flying with lieutenants. I flew with Bill Frank and Luke Swain. Who I think are both CAGs now. I know Billy is. He was. Yeah. So, but these two kids were just gifted Rios. I mean, they are some of the best Rios I ever flew with, and they are great kids. And obviously, going from the F-14 to the F was child's play for them. It's like, all right. Outside of dealing with the fact that the guy in the front wants to do it all, this is before the missionized cockpit. I hear they've missionized it now finally, so advanced crew station. Yeah. Thank God. That was, because I was just, you need to be able to do your own shit. And, but those guys are just so gifted. So I flew with lieutenants as an XL.
That's awesome.
It was a ton of fun.
And so, you change over to 31. I actually didn't realize that's how it was decided. Because I always wondered why 22 became a Foxtrot squadron.
That's it. 22 was supposed to become 22 was supposed to be out here in Oceana.
Interesting. Yeah. So then at what point do you realize you're going to be the last CO of Tomcats and you're sunsetting the Tomcat? And can you talk a little bit about how big of a elephant that was to eat?
That was a big elephant.
It's a huge deal.
I figured it out pretty quickly. As an XO, we were doing the time. I'm like, okay, we're coming back from deployment in April. As soon as we get back, 213's going to Fs right away. We're going to go through in the fall. So we're going to stay current in Ds in case we have to deploy. And so I'm like, I guess I'm going to be the last CO. But, so I thought that, but also in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'd gone from being 213s. I mean, you've seen front office slates juggle. I'm like, I didn't put any real stock into it. I'm like, okay, yeah, in my mind, it's out there, but I was like, we'll see what happens. I gave it like a 70% vote of confidence. I wasn't sure. It wasn't worth, killing brain cells over. So,
Right.
as we go through that deployment, and the deployment was a great deployment. The guys did great. We were dropping bombs, doing all the things. I mean, people don't realize how busy we are, Taco, and you know this because you've been out there, and you've been out there as an XO. And you guys really did a lot of work, and a lot of people don't know it. They have no idea how busy you were out there and how long and brutal those missions can be. And we were doing that shit even as an XO. We're like, okay, there wasn't a time there wasn't a day that didn't go by that we weren't dropping on somebody. I mean, somebody up in Mosul. We had Mosul mostly because we were the only plane that could make it up to Mosul. So and we could find IEDs on our FLIR. So we would sweep routes for them all the time. We'd find things. We'd find guys digging them. And it's so we were dropping routinely. I would say if not every day, at least every other day. So I won't say it was commonplace, but it wasn't a big deal. It was like, once you get over it, you get over it. And I was over it from 2003, so I didn't care. But the young guys hadn't dropped before, so they were all excited. So, but once they checked it, even they're like, whatever. It honestly, it increases your max trap. So like, hey, we can bring more gas back. So, I'm not kidding. We had one plane at VF2 had a 3.8 max trap.
Wow.
If you brought the weapons back, it had a 3.8 max trap. I was one of, yeah, we had 2 pilots by the end that could fly, actually 3, because we had a skip. So Slim Whitson, our skipper, me and Grumpy were the only 3 pilots who could fly this plane. It was our showbird, and apparently the paint on that thing was so heavy that it was just, they're like, and we would get that thing reweight all the time. And it was also an old B upgrade. So some, like probably 20 of the 55 Ds were B upgrades. Like they took a B and they made it a D instead of just a B, born a D. And so there's some wiring in there that was never used, like a carrier. And so this plane was just fat as shit. So if you brought weapons back, it was, it was a 3.8 on the ball. At night, you're like, good luck. Don't fuck it up. But yeah, so the guys were like, yeah, I'm glad we don't bring what I can land a normal weight. It's because we had fat planes at VF-31 too. The D was a chunky monkey.
You got Erst in there now, so yeah, you got all that stuff.
The double chin pod, the whole shit. I mean, all this stuff. It weighed a lot. I mean, the plane was just chunky.
Yeah.
Talk to me about why that makes it hard to land, because for somebody like me, I don't understand that.
So the max trap is the heaviest allowable weight to come aboard the carrier at night. So that's what the plane. And for the Tomcat, it was 54,000 pounds. So your plane with all the shit on it and all the gas could weigh 54,000 pounds coming across the ramp. And if the plane's empty, so you do basic empty weight and all the other shit. Like I would take off with a fully loaded Tomcat was between 68 and 74,000 pounds, which is a pretty heavy shot. I mean, it's a jolt, especially on a short deck like a Connie. But coming aboard, if you had your weapons still, so you had, a pair of GBU-24s are 2,000 pounds apiece. That's 4,000 pounds. You got all the other crap, and the empty weight was, let's say it was 50,000 pounds. That means you've got 5,000 pounds to play with, or 4,000 pounds to play with. Nice math. Which was exactly what this thing would weigh if it had weapons on it. So, I mean, there were times where you would have to jettison weapons if, like, you'd come back with what was called an unrecoverable load. It's like, if you take off with this, you can't bring this back. Well, we don't want to, for, the technology one, but more importantly, the weapon. It's like, we just don't want to jettison this shit into the ocean if we don't have to. So we would try to recover everything that we could. So you'd come back and if you were fully loaded with a couple of our planes, you only had 4,000, you came back with the weapons. It was the plane weighed 50,000 pounds, 50,200 pounds. So you had, 3.8 to play with. So
what would you for just to like put that out there on the air, like what would you guys burn in a pattern? So if you bolt
Oh,
or
that was
what are
one.
you
You basically had, if you could hurry around, you could get another look. It was 1,500
okay,
pounds to go around.
15, so essentially you get one look and then or else you're going
Yeah,
to the
I mean,
tanker.
you could
Kid,
probably try another look if you could get an S3 to meet you off the bolter. If like there
yeah.
he is, you can get him if you go. But if you screwed it up, I mean, in the D, the Hornet is much more reliable as far as what you had. I mean, you've seen
Mhm.
the movie. We did actually tap our flight. I mean, Top Gun, you do like, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's not that accurate. So when you got below 1,000 pounds on the side, it got real scary. You're like, is it 1,000? It going through Top Gun. My right engine flamed out rolling down the runway with 800 pounds in it.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Just
we'd come back, 2-2 all the time, whatever. It's like, all right, we'd fight and come back and land. And I'm like, dude, we're really low. He's like, yeah, we're good. I'm like, what do we have? He's like, oh, we can still come back on the break. We're not like stupid low, but we come around and I'm like,
we're fine.
somewhere between, we had like 2.6. We come in and break, and I'm like, it all migrated to the left motor somehow. Don't ask, it's a Tomcat. And I'm like, well, we're down to 800 pounds in the right, and we get down to like the two board, and I realize it's shutting off, and so I turned the motor off right away because the last thing you wanted, one of the mechs told me, he's like, don't ever, if you're flaming it out, don't leave the fuel throttle up because it just crushes all the fuel lines. It's like the only smart thing I did was I shut it off before the thing completely wound down.
Oh,
Yeah.
mission complete.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, Beth,
so
it's we typically, we come back at max trap. You wanna, I mean, what would you say, tacos? 5.0, 6.0 at night? What do you guys?
uh yeah, somewhere around there,
Yeah,
like 50,
like
60, like
5. I mean,
depending on what you're doing. Yeah.
more's better. I mean, not
Yeah.
comfortable. Like I said, old guys get really comfortable at night, but young guys, I mean, I've watched shit. I'll tell on myself. I went around 3 times in one night after making fun of my
Yeah.
roommate who went around 3 times. I'm like, yeah, one of the best pilots I've ever known, Dennis Rickey, goes around 3 times. He's my roommate. I make fun of him. I'm like, then next night, it's me going around 3
Yes.
times. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, did I learn a karma lesson there? I'm like, screw that. Yeah, we joked about that because I was just like, like I said, he's a fantastic pilot, and it can happen to anybody as a JO. It doesn't happen to old dudes. It happens to young guys because you just get in your own head, and it's like, okay, you don't have enough experience to fall back on I can make this shit happen in any case. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So as you start sunsetted, so you're going from a 2-seat squadron to a single-seat squadron. Do you hold on to the Rios until the end, like until you guys actually sunset, or did you start? Because then they're going to go to 22.
I was working with UPERS to get guys to places that they wanted to go to as quickly as I could. Like I'm like, hey, if I can get you to, if you want to go to Lemoore now to 122, because the guys that were staying with me were going to 122. Like, so
Yeah.
the guys that were young, that had spent their, were first cruise JO, the really young guys, I only had a few. I mean, like they were going to go be 122 guys out in Lemoore.
Okay.
So everyone else, I'm like, hey, or 22, I guess it's the RAG's 122, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're going to the Red Cox.
Yeah, they're going to the Red Cox. And so I'm like, hey, if you guys want to go out to the RAG earlier, let me know. Whatever you guys want to do, I want to make it easiest on your families. And the rest of the guys, like, if you weren't going to go, and they're like, hey, I want to go down to, I want to be a TRACOM instructor, go down to Pensacola. I'm like, cool. Yeah, I'll keep you as long as I can. I'll work with, and Millington was great. They let me take care of as many kids as I could for as long as I could. I'm like, if you want to go be a ROTC instructor, what, because it was tough for the Rios because there were a lot of jobs getting whacked at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
we lost a lot of Tomcats, and we weren't standing up nearly as many Fs, and there were already F babies in the pipeline. So Rios, it was, if you weren't an upwardly mobile department head / CO prospect, there wasn't a ton of room for you somewhere. So trying to take care of those guys was my priority. So I held on to as many as I could if they wanted to stay. Conversely, if they wanted to, if it was easier for them to get to Lemoore sooner, then I'd send them to Lemoore. But I dragged as many of those. They stayed with me through the RAG. So we went through 106 as a squadron. So which was cool. Skipper of the RAG was a good friend of mine. So it was a pleasant experience, and 106 is a good operation. And at this point they had it wired. I mean, we were literally the last squadron to transition, so they transitioned everybody else. So it was a round wheel that they just rolled out for us. I realized early that I needed to get really strong single seat guys into my world. So, like, for instance, I gapped my training officer billet for almost 6 months because I wanted the NSOC. I wanted the N7 training officer. I wanted TOPGUN's training officer. So, and it went from Knack Weinberg. I mean, I rolled through guys. They kept like pulling them from me. And I think I ended up with Hobag. I actually didn't even get to see him because I ended up turning the squadron over before he got to the squadron. That's how long I gapped the billet. But I wanted TOPGUN's training officer to teach my guys because I'm like, hey, listen, I'm a lifelong 2-seat dude. I've got a bunch of 2-seat pilots, and I need a hardcore single-seat guy to teach us how to run a radar. I've never run a radar. I don't know how the HOTAS. And I spent more time in the CBT. So Shu Leiden was a sim instructor, and he was a skipper. He was a department head when I was a JO, and I think he's a great dude. But so he was a sim instructor, and I'm like, dude, you need to teach me this shit. And so ungun wide 9, all this. I mean, I spent hours trying to not suck. I'm like, I can't go out sucking in a plane. I mean, I've spent too long being good to turn into this piece of shit as I've finished my career. So I worked at it. I'd give myself a C+, B- as a Hornet pilot. Only because I just
top third, bottom
third. I was about to say we were right back to the beginning of your
right back
career
to full circle.
The academy,
But the young guys, part of it is like I also knew I was short-lived. I was going to turn the squadron over for work. I did like the first month of workups, but I wasn't there long. And so I'm like, whatever, this is it for me. So, I could start it, fly it. Fighting it's easy. I will say that, that's basic, but employing it is a different thing. And, honestly, a lot of it I found to be a downgrade from the D. And, I talked about Dan Dixon, my CAG, earlier, and he agreed with me because he was a Hornet baby, and he started, like I said, he's one of the best, if not the best, Hornet Tomcat drivers I ever knew. He's like, man, this doesn't have half the shit the D has. Like here's an example: the 3-degree tick mark on the HUD. So straight and level, and then 3 degrees for the glide slope. The Hornet, I guess, has it now. It didn't have it when I left, but apparently they put that in a tape upgrade. And I don't know if you know that or not, Taco. But so as soon as you hit, your 1,200 feet, you hit glide slope, you just lower that thing down to 3 degrees. You keep it at 3 degrees, and it's like flying the ball all the way down. Now I know there's PLM now, and nobody flies shit anymore. They just land. It does, But for the old school dudes, the 3-degree tick mark was like that was awesome. And we had a hot cursor. So wherever we ran our cursor, it gave us not only BRA, but it gave us digital bull. So, if you hear a call and you're like, hey, group, whatever, you'd run your cursor out and it had that. Well, the E initially had digital bull. It didn't have BRA. Like you couldn't just run your cursor over there. And I'm like, and the Hornet guy's like, oh no, that's standard. We always known that. It's like, if they say, whatever, they're like, we just do the math. I'm like, I'm sorry. Thank you. There you go. I like your face. Cause that's exactly what I said. I go, you shitting me? So when I'm skipper and I know based on my incident that I'm not going to be a CAG now, they sent, Dix goes, Puck, you're going out to the Hornet Executive Steering Committee. He's like, you're taking Comrade, who's our DCAG, and you guys just jump on all the grenades you can. And I just read these guys a riot. We're at St. Louis and Boeing, and I'm like, why doesn't it have? And I had 10 things that the D had that the E didn't have. And I go, how does the next gen fighter that we are putting our guys in not have shit that our last fighter had? And they didn't have an answer.
What did they say? I was going to say, yeah.
It's like, oh, well, you haven't asked for it. I'm like, I'm asking for it now. I'm like, and I'm pretty sure somebody else has asked for this. So it was, but now it has, I would like to say that the Hornet tapes now have all the shit that I asked for. So
it's nice.
Well, if you don't get it, you don't ask, but I still can't believe that they didn't have this shit. It was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Well, that's mind-boggling that they would do radial math to get bra.
I was wondering,
or it's like, do they have a spider card? I got a spider card on my kneeboard.
It's like, so they had a heading, and they're like, and they would do like, I'm like, all right, you lost me there. Just don't even talk anymore. I'm done. I can't do math in a plane. Everyone knows that.
That's too smart. I use my fingers. I gotta, like,
dude, son, all this is like, yeah. Crazy talk.
So we kind of got a little bit, I think we got ahead of ourselves, or at least some things that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
So rewinding a little bit, we had talked in the phone call about, and I don't know if this was part of your decision to stay in, but, O Club culture and, how much that meant to you, talking with the old guys at the club or, getting the squadron there.
That was,
yeah, I guess.
Like,
JO days to being a commanding officer too, because I think that was different. The experiences are different. So if you can talk about that. It
was very consistent in the Tomcat world. I will tell you that I showed up and my first job was coffee mess PAO. Brian Gone Donger, Tomcat legend, was my first boss. He was the admin officer, and he's like, "Hey, there's just a rule. Every Wednesday, every Friday, you're at the club. That's it. Outside of that, it's like, work hard, figure out the plane. Your most important job is figuring out how to be a good Tomcat guy." He's like, "Your job's really easy," and it was. He's like, "You don't need to spend more than 2 or 3 hours a day doing this. If you're not doing that and you're not flying, you figure out how the plane works. Just be at the club on Wednesdays and Fridays." And we were. VF-32 showed up, and we were a big squadron, and everyone else was there, and it was, old school O clubs. And, I was fortunate enough, before I went to MOTS, I was sent to Top Gun ground school to, just go through the ground school portion. So this is like in 94. This was Miramar was still a Navy base. And I saw the Miramar O Club, and that was the same way. It was Wednesdays and Fridays. It was like the movie. And, that's what, my skipper, when I showed up to 31 as the XO, we had 2 days that we wore our golf shirts under we called it was golf shirts on Wednesdays to go to the O Club. And then on Fridays, we wore our t-shirts. The t-shirt. So, and it said it on our flight schedule. It was, big fighter golf shirt day and homo t-shirt day. It literally said it on the flight schedule. I'm not even kidding. So, you'll have to cut this all out later, but it literally said it on the flight schedule. Every Wednesday and Friday it said this, and we all showed up, and we had red polos that we wore on our flight suits on Wednesdays, and on Fridays we wore the other shirt. And that was just the rule of 31. So it was hugely important, because I will tell you, I think that's where the real camaraderie to the backbone of the Tomcat community was built. And the A6 guys had it too. When I showed up, it was A6s and Tomcats, and the A6 guys were there too. And it was all good fun. And the guys rolling dice. We didn't play beer pong back then. Or beer die.
Did you play crud?
Yeah, we played crud, and we rolled dice. Okay. So a lot of money being lost, a lot of bones being broken in the back in the crud room. And it was, this is also back in a different day. I mean, you could survive a DUI back then. It was like, that was, I could tell you stories about what skippers used to say about guys like, dude, just get your car home and don't crash. It's like, okay. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't smart. It's like, when I was born, we didn't have seatbelts in cars and I played in the window well. That was just the way kids grew up. It's like now it's, you don't sit in the front seat until you're 20, until you're 15 and you're in a rear facing. It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
We get smarter, but
it's different times, but
yeah, it was hugely important. And I was there with Diane and Nancy back in the day, and that was a hugely important part of my life. They were both really crucial members of Diane would drive me home. I mean, and then, Phyllis has done a great job filling really big shoes. I mean, I love Phyllis because that was, what happened to Diane was super unfortunate. And I was up at the War College when they fired Diane. I remember it was Halloween and Halloween 2004. And I found out that they fired Diane and then Nancy quit because they fired Diane. And I'm just like, I'm this far away from going back to Oceana. Like, I can't wait to get back to Oceana and be in the bar with my people. And dude, like, I got a call like, dude, they fired Diane last night. I'm like, what? Like, and this was part of the MWR drawdown and all the other shit. And I lost my mind. And I'll be honest, when the first time I saw Phyllis, I hated her because she was, she took Diane's job. But then I realized this is unfair. I met Phyllis. She's a sweetheart. And she's like, she was as crushed about Diane as I was. And then I realized how awesome Phyllis is. So we're really lucky that we've had two legendary bartenders at Oceana forever. Unfortunately, on Phyllis's watch, the bar's gone from what Diane had, which was 500 people on a Friday night. Like, the entire club was like, you couldn't move around and get a drink. The outside bar had bars out there. I mean, you get beers out there. Underneath the pavilion was a dance floor that was packed. I mean, so it was just, it's gone from that to there's 20 people that leave at 6. Yeah. By 7, it's closed on a Friday night.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a different time. But I think the lessons that come out of, and it's not even the drinking, like that's part of it, right? There's drinking that happens at a bar.
No, it was more the camaraderie and listening to the old
there's more lessons that
I learned half the shit I learned about fighting listening to Roscoe and the O Club.
Yeah.
And and meeting the other, aviation legends. And it gives you a sense of belonging, of realizing that you're part of this fraternity that's bigger than you, and that you're just a placeholder in this entire equation, and just, do as well as you can. Don't embarrass the uniform, and make sure that the squadron does as well as you take care of your people. And I learned so many things from so many great leaders at that club. I won't say it was more important than the flying part, but it was, as I would say, is equally important to me. And it was a significant portion of the reason I stayed in. And I feel bad that while I respect the fact that the generation is staying in now for the flying, because there isn't that part, or at least that much of it. I'm refreshed by guys like you, Taco, honestly, that have taken kind of an old school approach. Like, hey, let's go to the club. It'll never be like it was, but if you can take them there and you get them there once or twice a month and you can show them a good time and say, hey, this used to be a bi-weekly thing forever for the old guys. And, we didn't do things on Saturday because we were too hungover from Friday. I'm not sure that's healthy, but, again, it really grew the brotherhood. And I mean, guys from all over would fly into Oceana for a Friday night. I mean, the guys from Langley would drive down. They'd drive down and wear their outfits with their ascots. That went over like a turd in a punch bowl. Yeah,
It's good times, I'm sure.
talk about choosing last in uniforms. But yeah, no, I think the O Club cannot be underappreciated and underemphasized as far as how crucial it was. I mean,
And I think,
there's one more thing I just like. So the Silver State Club out in Fallon. Have you ever heard of Ruthie?
mm-mm.
Okay, so there's a book about this, but Ruthie was like the original bartender out there. Ruthie. I was fortunate enough to know Ruthie when she was from pretty old to, crotchety old, like, and retired, and unfortunately, God bless her, she's passed. But if you talk to old guys about Ruthie, everyone knows who she is. She was like the original Diane, but she was out of Silver State, and she ran that like a mother hen. Until you got Ruthie's approval out at Fallon, you weren't anybody. Like, you couldn't go to the bar, you couldn't really, like, you had to follow very strict rules. But once she embraced you and you were part of the inner circle, and Ruthie took care of you. You asked the Top Gun bros once Top Gun moved out there about how important Ruthie was. But that was another culture. I mean, that, out in Fallon, you're on debt. I mean, Silver State Club is that's a huge thing out there. So, and luckily the guys get to experience that to some degree still.
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the touch points or one of the big points you brought up is the pass, right? You're just a placeholder.
Yeah.
And what I like about the club when people are there, like when you go there, it's that touch point to the past and to the people before us where it just makes it mean more because it's something that's been going on for so long.
Absolutely.
And that's the important part. It's, sure, like we share a beer and that's great, but it's the connections that are happening. That's the important part. And I think what we've lost so much, with the death of the O Club. I mean, when I was coming in, that's what they were calling it. We've lost the forest for the trees because we need to stop drunk driving and all that. That's absolutely true. But two things can be true at the same time, where
Right.
we need to stop that, but we still need to go to the club and
It's
handle
right.
ourselves.
I'm not saying you to be an alcoholic, but especially now with Uber and Uber and getting the base. I mean, I shared with you earlier, my truck, I'd never not driven as much from the club until I was an XO. And I realized, all right, first off, the rules are changing. Secondly, society's changing to a certain extent. And thirdly, it's just easy. I mean, between Uber and everyone else, like, you can get home. It's not hard. I mean, now it's all on you. You're just being careless and selfish and a douche if you do it now. So
You can always get an Uber, Mitch. You know about that.
yeah,
But not from the O Club. That's not an O Club problem.
No.
It's a Wheels' house on a
No,
holiday weekend.
That's true.
Well,
It depends,
that's
but yeah.
stupid. Distance.
Then
No,
I
it's all distance. Trust me. You're in the neighborhood. It's fine.
Then you just stay at Will's house. It's fine.
Everybody's like,
Do
shit,
it the
where
next
can
one.
we all sleep?
Yeah.
Oh no, we found somebody.
Yeah.
That was one of the more memorable evenings
No, but
in existence. I'll cut that
yeah,
out. Don't worry.
it's a shame that the O Club culture perished or atrophied to the point where it's, I for all intents and purposes, it's gone. I mean, because it's so infrequent, even with your lauded efforts, which I admire. You can't get enough of the guys. It's just not part of their culture. I mean, it was embedded in us, even in Kingsville. When I was in Kingsville, we were expected to go to the O Club in Kingsville. Now, it was Tomcat guys that, like, I remember the guy, Buick Eberhard, he's like, hey, you guys were supposed to be at the club. It's Friday night. And we're in Kingsville, Texas. There's nothing else going on. So you might as well go to the O Club. Yeah, and it was fun. But that's where, I learned to play crud in Kingsville. I learned how to drink, and all this. And it got me sort of ready for Oceana, but nothing can prepare you for that back then. And my squadron, VF-32 was great. And then I was a RAG instructor, and it was great. And, I cry because it's not the same, because I do think that the young kids are missing out on something that was a really significant part of a lot of the old guys' lives. Like, when I talk about those names on the wall, everyone before us did the same thing. There wasn't, you go back to when those plaques start, pre-Vietnam. I mean, we've gotten rid of all the other, the really old ones, the World War II ones, but you look at the Vietnam guys and all the other shit, those guys all had a no club. And the things that we grew up with. It's just this last, generation and a half that's grown up without that sort of bond and camaraderie, which I think is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that it comes in different ways that, we still found the camaraderie, but I'd argue, I don't know if it's, I'm not part of it, so I don't know if it's as strong, but it's a challenge for sure to keep that
I
intact.
would
Where I
say the
think that was
minimum is
just,
a challenge.
it was such an easy way for you
Yeah.
guys to build that camaraderie. It was every day. And you even talk, it's in the Air Force, it was everywhere back then of like singing songs and burning pianos, all that stuff, all the history that people are trying to bring back, but it's yeah, it's an uphill battle, I think. And just there was all the things you're trying to battle too, right? Like getting stuff on base as we all transfer over, and society is changing, but to make it clean. But like yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this thought, but
It's just sad because think of all the stuff that you lose, because like
yeah,
your generation isn't hanging out with Dog Doyle,
No,
isn't hanging
yeah,
out with Bad Fred, isn't like
I
all
I met
that.
Dog and Rattler at the club.
Yeah.
They
yeah,
were I was skipper of VF-31 and they were putting in the Tomcat bricks. And
yeah,
I'd heard of them. I hadn't met either of them, but through your dad and other friends, I met two legends that I'm now fortunate enough to call old friends. I've now known them for 25 years. But
yeah.
at the time it was, I met him on the back deck smoking a cigar. And that was standard. I'm like, hey, and I was like, hey, Wednesday, and then, hey, I'll see you Friday. So I got to see him twice a week, like clockwork.
Mhm.
And, we'd share stories, and it was like, you can become pretty close friends over, 6 months, meeting twice a week
Absolutely, yeah, right.
over a beer. It's like you can share a lot of life stories and a lot of life lessons through that evolution. And, it's unfortunate the young guys don't get to experience some of that. And at least have it as an option. Like if that isn't what you want to do, then I get it. Like because we had guys, we started with when the Hornet guys got up here, when they shut Cecil and all the Hornet guys came up, and that's when that T-shirt was born, by the way. So when they showed up, we realized, Hornet guys had a totally different outlook on this. And I get it because first off, there's half as many dudes in a squadron with the same amount of jobs. So, they've got 14 officers that have 20 jobs instead of having 32 guys have 20 jobs. So
Right.
half the dudes have 2 jobs. I'm like, well, that would suck. I can't imagine doing 2 important things. Like I can barely do 1 important. I have a phony baloney job. And, so they're, when they got time off, I understood why they didn't feel like the press to just spend it with the guys from the squadron because they were stuck in that world a lot. We weren't like, we 2 or 3 hours of your job in a Hornet, or Tomcat squadron was a lot. I think I threw out my arm. Like, I'm tired. I need to rest. And so it's like, what else are you going to do? Like, hey, I'll see you at the club. All right. Sounds great.
Yeah.
And so that's where we built, we had no reason. We weren't tired, fatigued, or whatever. It's like, let's go to the club, at 3. They're still doing
Yeah.
their job. So it was different. That's when I realized that our communities had a different outlook on it. And that's when I was
Yeah.
really happy to be in a Tomcat squadron.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my really good friends in VFA 105, which like our default sister squadron, he was like the line division officer in the QAO. And I look back on that now, having been a maintenance officer, and I'm like, what moron would give one guy these 2 jobs, like these 2 crucial, important jobs? I'm like, to one first cruise lieutenant, by the way,
Lieutenant.
first cruise lieutenant. I'm like, a lot of squadrons in the Tomcat world, QAO is a non-department head 04 job. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy had in the line division is arguably your toughest leadership challenge as an officer.
For sure.
Yeah. So I'm like, this poor guy had both of these jobs as a first cruise lieutenant. I'm like, Chuck, good luck with that, man.
Yeah,
That
good on you.
sucks. I drink a lot. Yeah.
So really, you drink whether it's a hard job or whether there's nothing to do. It's how it's just drinking. That's it.
Don't judge.
That's the secret. So I get, yeah, I mean, that's like the final question we always ask, right? Is what is the lesson that you've taken away from your aviation career? And Puck, I feel like we can answer it for you.
No. The lesson, honestly, I just, I think naval aviation has been remarkably consistent through its 125-year history at this point, or whatever we're up to. I mean, it's been forever. It's like I keep losing, but of producing really remarkable leaders and remarkable people from all sides, whether the officer, the enlisted ranks, all the just the teamwork and the things that are required is truly inspiring, because it happens all the time. And even though I bitch about the O Club culture kind of dying, the guys are still executing. I mean, the only thing that really truly matters is that they execute at the tip of the spear. When you're going off the carrier, that these guys are doing it the way that we've always done it, which is well, and they are. And Taco, your team, through a very challenging deployment, came back and you guys crushed it out there, really, through all the challenges that you were going through. I can't even imagine how tough that must have been, trying to keep all that stuff together. And the way that the way that the team executed. And the sad part about all of that is not many people understand how well you guys operated out there. Like, all the strikes that you flew, the distances that you flew, the time airborne that you were flying. And I think it's not just a hats off to you, but just a hats off to our mechanism of naval aviation, and that we just prepare. And like I said, we're just stakeholders holding down the fort for the next team. You're building the next generation. There's a driver and a Wizzo in your squadron that are going to be sitting in our seats in a few years, and they're going to do the same thing. And so they just pass the torch along. And I'm honored that I was part of it, and I'm just humbled by the fact that I'm part of this fraternity.
Yeah. Get a chance to share your stories.
Yeah, and drink.
Yeah.
It's on
awesome.
TV. It's great.
Hey, Mom, I'm on YouTube.
Hey, look, check it out.
Are there any, I bet, Mitch, you probably have like 20 more questions, so we can answer them too. I just thought that it was a really good segue into, how drinking is so important in this.
Yeah, I mean,
I was being an asshole.
No, I'm trying to weigh, like, not on the recording that's going to go in here. I'm trying to weigh approving drinking and not right in my seat. So, like, trying to be
you're
cautious of what I say.
Yeah,
This is the part not for TV.
Wow.
Well, the good news is you guys can hack the shit out of this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can.
Whatever. I
It's
don't
not
care.
him. Well, at least just that part. I think after what he said,
I've
that's
noted
great.
a couple things,
No, and I think to your point too, right? Like being the stakeholder, but it's the mechanism, and it's good news for the future, right? Like there are people who both in the enlisted ranks and in the aviation and in the officer side crushing it on the daily.
Yeah.
And so that should give people hope, because it's not sure, like the way in which people interact and come together is different. But I think there's, as long as we can find avenues for the camaraderie in the community and keep that brotherhood, sisterhood, tribe mentality, that's where you get fantastic squadrons, is the ones who take that extra step and care a little bit more to buy into something bigger. That's all, I think that's all people are looking for. And that's whether it's at the club with an older guy or why I'm sitting here talking to you to get those lessons learned, to be able to pass them on.
No, you've said it eloquently. Couldn't agree more, because it is truly, I mean, the next generation is already here. I mean, they're like, Thanksgiving, we're going to have 30 people here, and it's all Navy families. And it started 20 years ago when it was just the crew, cruise widows. So it was like, so we're going to have 5 families. My Rua from Top Gun, Lou Shager, BG, just really great people who over the years we've all been deployed at points. And so obviously it's like, hey, you bring their wives and their kids over while their husband's deployed. And now we're all home and retired, and we all live within a mile and a half of each other here. But we still do Thanksgivings together. And now it's the next generation in the sense that we have one that's going through the RAG over at Norfolk in SH60s. And we've got 2 kids that are finishing up in VT3 together and about to select, and, hopefully hoping for jets. But it's, when I say the next generation, it's here, and it's within our families. And, they saw the clubs back in the day, so they know where we come from. But more importantly, it's about the names that are on the plaques in the O Club, and the names and the plaques on the walls, about the guys, just everyone that was on there, and making sure that you live up to the standard that was set prior to you being part of it. So that's all you can do. And,
That's it.
that's it.
Hey, I do have one last question for you too.
Sure.
Puck, can you talk to us about the shared commonality of you and Snort, and the thing that you
Oh, that's
love
right.
that nobody's gonna believe unless you
It is
say
the holiday
it yourself?
season when
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
are.
Well,
this is probably
when
gonna
people-
come out after the holiday season because
I'll
it's
share that.
yeah.
All right. I am a huge Hallmark Christmas movie fan. Like, I've been watching Hallmark Christmas movies since Halloween.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love this.
So,
Every fighter pilot's got a soft side.
yeah. So, and my family has always made fun of me for it. I've done this for decades. So it's, ever since the Hallmark Channel thing, became a thing. So, I thought, really I was the only one, but then Snort texted me a message once, and it was on Facebook Messenger. And so I was answering him, and I pull up his Facebook page, and there his Facebook page is. And it's got him. He's at an air show in a lounge chair, and he's got his feet up on a bucket. He's just kicking back, and his feet on the bottom of it says, "These are my Hallmark Christmas movie watching socks." And I started laughing, and I told him, like, Snort, I have the same socks my kids bought me. So we both had a big chuckle about the fact that we're both big Hallmark Christmas movie fans. And yeah, who knew?
Absolute killers
That's
who
good.
love
It's like,
freaking Hallmark movies.
eh,
That makes me
Do you
feel good.
have-
I'm gonna go watch a Hallmark movie
there
like
you go.
the next
I
time I,
was
have
actually
like
watching
2
one before
hours
it came
free.
up. So-
I
Do you have a favorite? Is there one that you
Oh,
watch
yeah.
like every year that you have to?
I can't. It's hard. It's like picking a child. Can you pick your favorite child? I mean, wow. I can give you some
I
of
can't
my
let you-
favorites, but yeah.
Okay, top three. Can you do that?
Oh, top 3. Christmas at Pemberley Mansion, A Timeless
Can't believe we're doing
Christmas,
this.
and I'll have to think on the third one.
So, I might have to get into Hallmark Christmas movies. Apparently,
I'm writing these down.
You're writing
I'm-
this down? If
I
let
am,
me
because you
check,
know what?
hold
I'm
on.
gonna be
I've
all
got
by
'em all.
myself on Thanksgiving, so that's what I'm gonna do now. is,
Oh, I have them all on my. I have an app for this, literally.
Oh my god, which one have I watched the most?
Oh, yeah. It's like,
app.
actually, I saw one today that I really kind of liked. It was not Hallmark. So now we've got a couple other channels out there that do the same thing.
Netflix has
Well,
some cheesy
Netflix
Christmas.
is doing them, and the Great
Mhm.
American Channel or whatever,
Okay.
Great American Family Channel, whatever there's doing them.
Okay.
Yeah. But Christmas with the Knightleys, that's a good one.
Okay.
I watched that today for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
there's my wife and my oldest kid love Hallmark Christmas.
Oh, well,
movies
then
as
we'll have to compare notes.
Apparently, I'm missing out.
Oh,
I
they're
should-
great.
I guess I got to
Yeah.
tune in.
You cannot watch one and not feel better.
I feel. You know what?
It's
That's
literally-
what
it's
the
like a-
directive should be for Wheels' house. Is everybody has to watch one new Hallmark
Watch
movie
one, and I can give you
come
some
and
recommendations.
discuss.
Here's what you do: is you
Okay.
go on IMDb and don't watch one that doesn't have a 6.5 rating or higher.
Okay.
Okay.
If they
Okay.
get above 6.5, they're starting to get into the really good range.
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I love
between
that you-
6.5 and 6 is good. Below 6, it's just not worth watching. I've probably
quality.
watched it, but it's not worth watching.
Were you into Hallmark cruise movie, or were you into Hallmark movies when you were still in, or was this a post?
No, this is
Navy?
post.
Okay.
Yeah, post Navy.
I was gonna say, did somebody have to send you out like
No,
a
yeah,
DVD
this
for your
was
last cruise? So you could
Retirement
watch it?
career
I
has been.
Yeah, it was like the year after I retired. I was sitting there and I'm I was working at Blackwater at the time, and I was home and watching. I'm like, oh, this is fun. I watched one, then I watched two, and then I had like you could record, so it was like I had Cox and you had the DVR on Cox cable, and so I could literally watch one and then go back to where the other one left off, so I could watch two at a time without watching any commercials. That's how I got through it.
You even did that aggressively. Like that's
You gotta learn how to be efficient.
Seriously, that's impressive. I like it. I'm just gonna
Let's say
say
goodbye.
thank you for sitting with us for
No, I've
4
enjoyed
hours.
it. You guys, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's been the
Yeah.
best. Actually, 5 hours because everybody didn't get the first hour that we got. So it's been killer.
Yeah. If you have any follow-ups, just ask. This has been very
hell
enjoyable. I wish
You're
you guys
coming back for
wanted to
cowboy
go.
time.
Yeah.
Like you're coming back for cowboy
We're-
time for
we're-
sure. Thanks to everybody for listening, and we can't wait to have you back next time.